Okay, hello everyone. Welcome to another episode of Little Box of Cinema. This is Tanma Shrivastava. I'll be leading today's topic. Today's topic is movies that killed their franchises. And today, joining us are Zach, give a
Yeah, boy.
wave,
Let's go. Come on.
Chris, who is also a twin brother of Owen that we just found. We we have Sahan
I
and a new addition to our group, Juan, all the way from Vietnam. Juan, give a wave.
Hello,
So
guys.
So let us begin with today's this week's news and Zach.
News. Yeah. So, if you're a big Star Wars fan, you'll already know this. Gina Corrano was recently fired from the Mandalorian, or fired. She was let go, or however you want to put it. Disney came out with a statement saying that her recent behaviour on Twitter, they were referring to, was, I think the word they used was adherent, and basically unacceptable, right? She was under a bit of controversy because some of the tweets she said were controversial. I'm not going to give my opinion on them because it's a bit of a controversial topic, and maybe for another podcast. But so she had these controversial tweets. Disney decided to let her go, but these controversial tweets aren't really controversial. It's just a big thing right now where a lot. You know how like this cancel culture on Twitter and stuff. There's a lot of people saying fire Gina Carano, all of this sort of stuff. And in a recent interview that was released today, so the 21st, I'm not sure when this video is going to go up, but on the 21st, Ben Shapiro did an interview with her, and in that, I'm not going to say anything that's in it, but I highly recommend you go and watch that video. It's really it's an hour long, it's an hour of an interview. It's really quite an interesting, enlightening interview to listen to from her perspective of the whole situation. But yeah, that's all I was going to say. Yeah, news of the week.
Thank you very much, Zach. So let us begin with today's topic, and which is movies that killed their franchises. And the first film is from Zach.
Yeah.
So Zach,
Bouncing straight off the Star Wars controversy to a second Star Wars controversy. Star Wars: The Last Jedi, Star Wars 8, the middle one of the new sequel trilogy. It was garbage. Okay, so disclaimer: anyone that loves The Last Jedi, you're allowed to love The Last Jedi. You're fully entitled to your opinion. But here's my problems with The Last Jedi and why it killed the franchise. Star Wars 7 was a carbon copy of A New Hope. I'll let it slide because they're introducing new characters. It wasn't that bad, Star Wars 8 comes out, and you're allowed to like the film, but objectively, it's a bad movie. They have a casino plot scene. You know the whole casino scene, right? That is completely pointless to the final outcome of the movie, right? Finn's character is reduced to pretty much just saying, worrying about Rey and looking after Rey or everything about Rey. Again, on the casino plot scene, the thing they do achieve from the casino plot scene is freeing some animals from captivity, right? But it makes no sense because the animals they freed only made it about 100 meters past the gates. Like the casino wouldn't go back out and round them back up and put them back in prison again. Like it's not only is it like a pointless subplot, it's just not very well executed either, for what it was trying to say. And it just killed Star Wars. From The Last Jedi, the Star Wars fandom split in two. People hate the sequels, people love the sequels. New fans who are watching the sequels for the first time, it's just killed the franchise. Then Rise of Skywalker came out, and it's just as bad because it's trying to fix everything The Last Jedi did. And the Star Wars movie. Obviously, you've got the whole Mandalorian that's come out, and all the new Star Wars shows that have been announced. They're excited, and people are excited for them. But in terms of the movies, the sequels killed the movies, I think. That's my rant. Anyone else want to weigh in?
I guess I don't know that much, but yeah, go for it. Sorry.
Well, it's like you say The Last Jedi split the fan base in two of people who love the sequels and those who hate the sequels. I have to disagree with you there. I've never met anybody who likes The Last Jedi.
Ah, well, you, my friend, clearly have not been on TikTok or Twitter because the amount of videos you see on... Okay, so objectively, as I said earlier, The Last Jedi is a bad film. There's pointless subplots, there's pointless characters, like, and that's outside of the Star Wars universe. You put it in the Star Wars universe, and the lore doesn't make sense. A lot of it doesn't make sense, and so you get a lot of like people who try to make sense of it, and don't, and or they. So there's this thing with the Star Wars community where it's quite toxic anyway, and there's this thing going around where there's not right wing, that's the wrong word to use, very toxic fans that are saying you're not a Star Wars fan if you like the sequels. That's not true. I don't support that at all. But now what's happening is because you get this toxicity that's come from the sequels and The Last Jedi being so bad and stuff, you've now got the other side of the spectrum where there's people who are saying anyone that doesn't like the sequels are, what's the word? I don't like just not. They're not saying fake Star Wars fans, but they're saying they're throwing around terms like sexists or racists and stuff like that to the people, and like so now you've got two ends of the Star Wars spectrum. This one's like telling everyone you're not a Star Wars fan. This one's telling you you're a racist or a sexist if you don't like the sequels. And then there's just the middle crap. That's just like, I just want to like Star Wars, and it's not as good as the other films, right? But there you go. Yeah. Also, another thing I want to weigh in as well, the prequels. Everyone who loves the sequels defends them by saying, well, the prequels are just as bad. It's like, yes, The Phantom Menace objectively is a bad film, but the storyline, the world building that it has to develop Star Wars is good, right? Whereas with the sequels, there's nothing there. Like, there's no there's comics, but like I'm not interested in them because I'm just not interested in the characters. Whereas with the prequels, I am, because they make good characters, right? Whereas the sequels didn't. So yes, Star Wars: The Last Jedi killed it. I just can't like it. But yeah.
So someone else with their phone.
Yeah, let me try, like DC boy try to do, critics the Marvel movies. Well, like if you with Spider-Man 3, Spider-Man 3, Sam Raimi's Spider-Man is my favorite movies ever because
same here.
Yeah, like completely like the movies, bring the superhero back to the big screen. Spider-Man 1, awesome. Spider-Man 2, the world of the class, like the best thing ever. But then Spider-Man 3 happened. But what's wrong with that? Like Britain Got Talent, you have like four strike, you out.
Yeah.
This one, ridiculous. Peter Parker's dance.
Yeah. When he's doing that. Like that.
Yeah,
that transcends. Like, it's quite funny now. People still meme about it, and then it's used
Like
in
current
Spider-Man
like all the memes. The meme, all the gifs. It's wait like 3 strikes straight away, and then only one for Simon Cowell. He put like if he rate this movie. I hate the one. What is called Venom?
Oh, the
recent one.
Is that the recent Venom?
Yeah. The
I do think it's quite poorly written.
Spider-Man. Yeah, Spider-Man 3.
I like the actual hero, but the way it was written. Yeah, I think they would we got Tom Hardy in it. We'll just write it in a certain way that still sells. Greatly promoted before the film, but when you actually watch it, they could have done so much with that character, and then it was just quite corny written. That makes sense. A bit corny.
Yeah. I mean, like Tom Hardy's Venom is incredible, like the real anti-superhero, but in Spider-Man 3, it's just a guy wearing a black Spider-Man suit and saying, I am Venom.
That was my biggest problem with Spider-Man 3 is it's not that. I used to watch the animated TV series as a kid, right? And the Venom in that, in one of them is Flash Thompson. And that Flash Thompson, he gets like a full bodysuit of armor from this Venom gear, and it's so cool. And then I saw the Spider-Man 3, and I was just a bit like,
Well, how he's shown in Spider-Man 3 is one of the ways that Spider-Man became Venom in the comics. It is comic accurate. It's just that they introduced Venom, and they introduced him in a comic accurate way, but in the comics there's a lot of time where after Venom stops being with Spider-Man, where he becomes Venom. While in Spider-Man 3, it's like, we've got Venom, and it's like, you don't though. You have the bit where he's not even Venom, he's just attached to Spider-Man.
Like Spider-Man 3 it's the final stage of what Venom and Spider-Man together is meant to look like, but it skips out the whole, like the Venom film. It just skips out the Venom film almost, right? In that sort of sense.
It's wasted. Like the whole thing is like I love the whole story, but that Venom is killed like
and
the whole
like,
franchises.
We can meme that dance as much as you want, but when they were watching that, what were they thinking? Like, it's not good.
Really?
Like,
exactly.
Also, if you look at it now, if the guy was walking down the street, like pointing at girls, you wouldn't think, "Oh,
you call the police, you call the cops."
Parker.
Yeah, exactly.
In universe, there wasn't any music playing. He was just dancing down the street.
Have you seen the videos like of like before it was edited and there was no music? And it's literally
quiet.
so funny. It's
But
I
do think. Sorry,
Zach. No, you go on.
I do think when like there's some bits that directing wise it was good. I think that they're written obviously do a dancing bit in there, but there's a directing bit. Like I remember watching the cinema, and then it's like Spider-Man's trying to find Venom. You can hear certain screeches. He turns around, obviously complete silence, and then he just gets picked up by Venom. I think that in itself, like Spider-Man's not known for like a horror vibe, but they did capitalize that near the end, in my opinion. But also one reason why I think it got killed off is mainly one of the reasons. I don't know if it's the main reason. Is because Tobey Maguire is known when he's trying to get his contract written he kind of like gambles the contract to get more money. And that's one of the issues that was reported, that he tried to get more money. And then they were writing the fourth film, which was, I think, when he gets like more arms. Like there's a bit in the comic books where he gets like, I think 2 or 3 more arms because of the effects of the bite. And they were making that process, but because Tobey Maguire's like, oh look, I need more money for this. You want me to do three or so more films? I need more money. And it kind of backlashed in the wrong way. So
I saw a news report. You know how like with the new MCU Spider-Man 3 is rumored to be a multiverse, and like the Spider-Verse is coming out. You got they're going to bring back Andrew Garfield and Tobey Maguire as Spider.
Well, apparently they're not. They've stopped saying that now, but we don't know whether they've stopped saying it too. We don't know whether they're actually not, or whether they're just trying to keep it under wraps.
I've read news reports and rumours that Tobey Maguire's contract is also a problem at the moment for that film, and apparently he's not signing something or something like that.
Toby.
But I mean, the actor for Doc Ock from the Tobey Maguire films is being confirmed. Jamie Foxx is confirmed from the Amazing Spider-Man 2. So there's going to be some.
He's not going to be blue though.
Yeah, he's not going to be blue.
If he's not blue, what's the point?
I think William Dafoe's in it. I'm not sure. I think William Dafoe might be in it. Obviously, in Spider-Man 2, Jamie Foxx. Can't think of anyone else.
I think they're definitely doing a crossover event with Spider-Man 3, but whether or not Tom Holland will be there, we don't know.
Tom Holland or Tobey Maguire?
Tobey Maguire. Tom Holland.
I really hope he is. Honestly, when I heard it, I was like, literally fanboyed so much.
Spider-Man 3 though, that dance bit, that's like it's known how bad it is even internally. Like on Into the Spider-Verse, when the first Spider-Man is doing his introduction, he's like, oh, that was this bit, and he does the dance. It's like, we don't talk about that anymore.
But even in video games, it's known as well, because obviously, like, this is not Spider-Man 3, but the bit where I remember playing the first Spider-Man game, and the bit where he's trying to stop the train from derailing, that's from Spider-Man 2. So those films have a chronological impact on the Spider-Man films made afterwards, I'd say.
Isn't Spider-Man 3, it wasn't just Venom, it was also Sandman and also Green Goblin.
And also Green Goblin right at the end.
And it's like, it could have been a really good film if it focused on Spider-Man versus Venom.
And I think
they didn't do that. They split it between 3 villains, and it's like, they just wanted to put too much in.
And this was the same problem with the Amazing Spider-Man 2, the Andrew Garfield one, which is also killed off the Andrew Garfield one because they tried to introduce the Sinister Six too early. right?
Mm.
They like Andrew Garfield. They had Electro, obviously, was like the main guy, but then they threw in Green Goblin. They threw in the Rhino right at the end. It's just like just save these characters, and just use them again.
They can make another movie.
Exactly.
They can make another
Yeah,
movie
Yeah.
for them.
exactly.
Like with
Yeah.
Rhino at the end, Rhino could be like the actual villain of a movie, kind of in himself, sort of. I don't know how good he'd be as a solo villain, but they just wasted him at the end of Amazing Spider-Man 2 by just being like, look, we're introducing him now in the last 5 minutes of the film. You're not even going to get to see how
It
the
was
fight
like,
goes.
Yeah, no, it was like the guy that plays Rhino was at the start of the film, he's like a bank heist or something, and then Spider-Man stops him, and then he goes to jail. And it's just like, it's also like not comic book accurate either. Like, because Rhino is literally a big rhino, as far as I remember. So like, why would you change that? Like, that's so good. But yeah, Spider-Man has a history of killing its franchise. This Spider-Man 3 with the MCU will be game changing for them. If they do this wrong, then it'll kill Spider-Man in the MCU.
I think there was an interview where Tom Holland was like, "It's such an ambitious script, but to see it like, well, obviously he's promoting the film, so he's going to have to say it's a bit because of it's working so well." So I do think Tobey Maguire's it, because there's literally like pictures of him going to set, or like they're all going to a certain set, which are very close to each other. But yeah, it could either go really well or really like or flop. It is the third film as well, and Tom Holland's going to be in the MCU.
Yeah, hope that.
And it has a lot to live up to as well. Like Far From Home was incredible.
It's great. Like,
Homecoming was good. I wouldn't say it's not even in my like top 10 MCU films, but Far From Home is actually incredible. If you haven't seen it, go and watch it.
Far From Home is good.
Like
I know roughly what happened at the end, but
it's a very different take on Mysterio, but they make it work so well.
And the actor, he's so the acting in Far From the acting in Far From Home, not just from him but from everyone, is really good. It's probably some of the best acting in the MCU.
Jack Gyllenhaal was a good actor, to be fair. So I think I know I've seen there's one scene where he kind of snaps between, like it kind of shows his real self.
Yeah.
I won't say any spoilers, but cool. I was there like, damn, like to switch from there to there.
Yeah.
Not very clear what I'm saying, but if people have seen it, they know what I'm talking about.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm glad that now Spider-Man is back to the creator. So Marvel know like Spider-Man really well. It's much better than Sony. I don't know. Like Sony always make Marvel films getting worse time by time. Start with Spider-Man.
Always blows it up.
Sony did do Into the Spider-Verse though, which I say that it's this is quite a big claim, but for me, it's the best superhero film ever made.
I agree with you,
Wow.
Chris. I agree with you.
Yeah. I do agree.
It's one of the few films I have ever given a 10 out of 10 to with no questions. Most films that I give it to, it's really a 9.8 or whatever, but the thing I'm reviewing it on doesn't let you do points. Into the Spider-Verse is just a 10. It is incredibly well done.
I'm going to pose a question, right? I agree with everything you've just said, Chris. Would you want to see a character from Into the Spider-Verse in the new MCU Spider-Man 3 multiverse?
Yes.
And like
they
could do it like a
difficult.
they could do it like a Who Framed Roger Rabbit and just have like an actual animated character next to all the other characters, just to like really emphasize.
They really can.
Would that be cool, or is that going too far?
I'd like it to be Spider-Man Noir.
Spider-Man Noir. Oh,
It's time for Nick Cage to have his MCU debut.
Yes, Nick Cage.
definitely.
Like it's possible. Like there's also like weird crossovers that's happening. I know this is completely off topic. We're talking about Spider-Man, but even like was watching WandaVision, and then they literally bring up Kick-Ass, which is obviously played with the same characters before. So like the fact then they probably shouldn't be using that in that certain episode because it's completely different. They own that film's owned by something else, but it's completely likely that if you can do that, then you can have potentially an animated Spider-Man in third film. Yeah.
But no, Spider-Man 3 did kill the Tobey Maguire. back to killing.
Yeah, sadly.
Spider-Man 3, Tobey Maguire did kill it, unfortunately. Yeah.
Okay, so I'll go with mine. So my film for this show is Green Lantern. So
Canadian.
I mean, I like Ryan Reynolds. He was really good at Deadpool. It's a really good actor, but there were a lot of problems with the script and the way they presented the story and some common sense. Really, I mean, so in the beginning, there's a scene when the most powerful of the Green Lanterns, he is roaming around the space. Now, one thing is that Green Lanterns can fly around space as much as they want without a spaceship, and that guy is on a spaceship. Well, I mean, he can fly around by himself. Why is he on a spaceship?
Yeah.
And after that, when he dies on Earth, and Ryan Reynolds is with him, so he is telling Ryan Reynolds some stuff, and then Ryan Reynolds he spots a helicopter coming towards him, and the helicopter is just so near that it can just shoot at him, and he thinks that he's safe because he ran away. I was like, I mean, use some common sense.
Yeah.
And
there's a real with Green Lantern. There's a real problem where there's following the comic book material, and then there's adapting it to fit it into film, which is what the MCU does really well. And then there's what Green Lantern did, and he just completely sort of scrapped it. And it was just like, no, I mean, Green Lantern can't fly in space. What do you mean? It's just like, yeah, helicopters now ignore him. It's just.
I mean, see, from the comics, I like Green Lantern. He's good hero, good superhero. But the way they mixed it up in the movie, I mean, after the movie, there were 2 animated versions as well for Green Lantern, and they were really good. But this movie with Ryan Reynolds, they had a chance to make it a blockbuster, but they just didn't.
They killed a franchise. So the first film.
Yeah.
The CGI as well.
Oh, we
his
never
whole,
man.
His whole suit is CGI.
When was it released?
2011.
Before CGI was up to the task.
No, 2011, 2009. They released Avatar, the James Cameron Avatar. The CGI on that is phenomenal.
That was that was a super.
That's got a heavy budget
movie,
though, as well.
It was expensive.
That was like a CGI, not Forerunner. It's one of at the time it came out, it was the most impressively done CGI like ever made, and it still is, really.
Yeah, I mean, there's moments in Avatar when you look back at it, and it's like it looks a little bit like a video game, but we let it off because it was 2009.
Yeah.
But like going from that in 2009, I know it was expensive, and I know it all these problems, but going from that in 2009 to 2011 Green Lantern CGI, you look at it and you're just like, no.
And it's like they didn't just enhance his suit with CGI. The suit was CGI. Even the mask he wore was CGI, and then they CGI'd his eyes on. If you look at his eyes, if you ever watch it, and they're not real. They just CGI'd the whole thing.
I mean, it is hard to compare with, like Avatar, because James Cameron, he is the master of CGI. Like, his success, you have to like connect a lot with like CGI, and then with Martin Campbell, I'm like, I don't know this director much, but I mean, with Green Lantern, I still enjoy the movie. I don't know, but I still enjoyed it. The only thing I don't like is Ryan Reynolds' sense of humor in Green Lantern, because Green Lantern, he is like kind of Batman in the green suit.
Yeah, I get
it doesn't make a joke at all. Yeah.
Yeah, like Ryan Reynolds pulls off Deadpool perfectly, because Deadpool is exactly the sort of humor that Ryan Reynolds is good at.
Yeah,
but
Ryan
Reynolds. Yeah, no, like Ryan Reynolds is a great actor. It's just he didn't really fit the role.
Yeah, he tends to in lots of his films he tends to play himself. He tends to play. He doesn't play the character. He plays himself as the character. If you get what I mean. So Deadpool is just very similar to Ryan Reynolds. So it really, really works. But in everything else he's in, he kind of just acts like himself. but with a
Yeah.
different name, and it doesn't always work depending on the character, which in Green Lantern it didn't.
Was the case.
Yeah, so watching Green
I mean-
Lantern is like, Deadpool somehow get lost into DC universe
Yeah.
and
Deadpool
then
lost
stuck
the space
there.
of DC.
Yeah, yeah, it's so
good.
sad.
There was this scene in Green Lantern when Jordan is dancing with his girlfriend, and he is wearing the Green Lantern ring, and it's a pretty big ring, and I was like, why can't she notice the ring?
Yeah.
I mean, you're
like that.
yeah, I mean, you're dancing with your girlfriend wearing a ring. That's a big
It's
thing.
even if you're like not worried about him being married or anything, it's just an ugly ass ring. Like, it doesn't look great, does it? And so you'd be like, why are you wearing a ring like that? Like,
And there was a scene in Green Lantern, the helicopter scene, when the helicopter just crashes through a pretty thick screen, and I was like, okay, it crashes through a thick screen, and no one in the helicopter is hurt. A helicopter then it goes into a crowd of people, like more hundreds and thousands of people, and it goes around that crowd without touching anyone.
so stupid.
Are you like?
So dumb.
I was like, how can someone be
Oh.
so stupid?
Yeah, I mean, like, it's bizarre. I mean, I think it's not just Green Lantern, but there's some superhero movies out there that completely downplay or overplay a character's powers, right?
Yeah.
Like, just use another example other than Green Lantern. The MCU Quicksilver is weak as
Yeah.
hell. What that you're meant to be a speedster that can move bullets because you're moving that quickly, right? And spoilers. Actually, no, I'm not going to give spoilers. But something happens to him. It's not hard. It's not hard to guess what from what I've just spoken about.
What? No way.
Really? But like, he's meant to be a speedster. He's meant to be able to like move bullets. Sonic does it in the most upcoming Sonic film. Like the Quicksilver from the X-Men films, when he's like when the man is exploding and he's like having his. We needed a Quicksilver scene like that, but we just didn't get it because they downplayed his powers.
It's one of those things though where because of how certain characters' powers should work, they have to write the characters to be less powerful or just stupid with them, because otherwise they just win. It's one of those things where it's like, why does he just do this thing? And the answer is, so the film can happen, because otherwise he'd just win.
Yeah, it's just like, why do the stormtroopers in Star Wars have to miss every shot? Because then there'd be no film if they hit every shot.
It's like, well, X-Men Apocalypse is a good example, because in is it Days of Future Past, the first one with Quicksilver in the X-Men?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, it establishes in that scene with like the slow-mo and stuff just how powerful he really is. So then in Apocalypse, they have to have him have his legs broken because like they have to find a way to write him out of the story, because otherwise he'd just win, and people would be like, why didn't he just win?
One thing I didn't understand about X-Men Apocalypse is he can run that quickly, that Quicksilver, and yeah, he's still got the Quinjet, or like not Quinjet, that's Marvel. He's still got the jet, the jet with them. But why don't we just run there? You could probably run there, run back to where you like the base is, and then run back again. You just still get there before the others. Like,
so he can relax, innit?
Yeah, I suppose so. But it's just
same reason that like the first cars in real life only went at 5 miles an hour, and people still drove them because they didn't want to walk, even though it would be faster.
That's a fair point, actually. But yeah. Do you want to go, Sahan?
Who's going?
Yeah,
all right.
Yeah,
So
go
mine is the series of unfortunate events from 2004, not the series. I chose this film because I remember watching it and I knew that there was like the way it was written obviously led to a sequel. And what made it, looking back, because I watched it recently and I looked at it and I was like, this is quite bizarre why it was killed off. So I looked at it and I looked at the box office. It actually did really well in the box office. Not massively, but like its budget was like 114 mil, but it grossed like 213 worldwide. And the issues why it kind of got killed off is because they the story is basically centered around these three orphans who go through a series of unfortunate events.
Yeah.
But because there's one relative that wants to like take custody of them to inherit their inheritance if anything happens to them. But the person who plays it is Jim Carrey, and Jim Carrey is like amazing, obviously, like in playing those other characters. And then the reviews were so mixed because of how it was so focused on his character, him being so funny, even though the book said that he was quite a dull character. It wasn't really that interesting. It was more centered around the children. And then you have like all these like really well-known actors just like thrown in there. And it kind of takes the focus off the story, but you're like, oh, Meryl Streep's in there, Billy Connolly's in there, Dustin Hoffman's in there. And then it kind of, that's why it was like, no, we can't really go down this direction, because it got a lot of negativity, even though it still did well. Like you have some films that have like so much negativity, but they get so much, like they do so well in the box office. Like Transformers had so much negativity past the first one, and then they still kept going on despite that, because they have so much good box office.
Yeah, I mean, like,
so, and
I just cutting in. Is anyone doing Transformers? Is there How to Kill a Franchise? Well, the last Transformers film is perfect for that. Is it Dark Knight? Or is that what it's called?
The Last Night.
Last Night. Absolute bad film. And we can talk about that later on as well.
Yeah, but like, what was quite interesting about the series of unfortunate events? It was literally they basically covered 3 books of the 13 books they had of that series within that film, and it was the highest grossing Nickelodeon film that they had until I think Airbender, Last Airbender, overtook it.
Which is equally as killing of a franchise. Nickelodeon have a track record, don't they? Like,
yeah, they do. They really do.
Yeah, I mean, we spoke about the Avatar: The Last Airbender a bit last week, and about the whitewashing that happened in that film. Not just how bad the story was, but when you try and cram an entire season, or in this case 3 books, into a film, you're always going to miss out really important stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
And Nickelodeon seemed to have a habit of messing it up big time.
Yeah, I mean, like, for me, I thought the direction of the film, like the mise en scène in it, it just looked such a really visually like nice film to watch. There's so many bits. I don't know if you guys have seen it, but like the set design looks incredible. It's just a very visually pleasing like film to watch, and like the music kind of works really well. And it just there's like loads of parts that allow it to be really immersive when you look through like quite thoroughly. And I was really surprised that it was killed off, or like because of how the direction they went with casting such.
Do you think it was the casting, or do you think it was part of the story? Because you mentioned, you mentioned that they emphasised the bigger name actors and their characters more in the film. So is it more just the fact that they weren't really true to the books, where they were like,
I think that was one of the reasons, because like I know Jim Carrey, like Watchmen and Grinch, or a lot of films he is in, he's very animated. He's quite known to be a funny character, like especially sometimes to children, and that is a children's book series. And then when you see that happen, it kind of, I think what makes the characters of the Baudelaires, I don't know if I'm pronouncing it right, they're very intelligent. Like you have those type of intelligent characters. Like you look at Hermione Granger, or like I can't think of any off the top of my head, but people really love those characters as children because they can relate to those characters a lot more, because there are challenges they go through that are similar to them, which you don't really see. We obviously see them go through challenges, but they're not as relatable to the at the time, because I think I was like 8 when I watched it the first time. It wasn't that related. I was more watching because how funny is Jim Carrey? That's banter. Oh, why are they not listening? Why are the kids not being listened to by the police? And even that was a bit. I know that's probably a part of the book series, but I feel like there's so many parts where it's like, look, let's be honest, that is Count Olaf. Like he's not just some random character he's playing. Yeah.
It's there's I think it's this thing with book adaptations of film as well. So it's not a franchise, but it wasn't killed off. It was a great film, but I'm like with I don't know if any of you guys have seen All the Bright Places. But that is originally a book. It's on Netflix. I highly recommend it. But I watched this film, right, and it was incredible. It's honestly one of the best acting, but some of the best acting I've ever seen in a film.
Yeah.
The story is perfect. The pace of it is. It's honestly one of the best mental health films. It's about mental health. It's one of the best mental health films I've probably the best, right? And then I did some research and I found out it was an adaptation of a book. And when I watched all the reviews on it on YouTube and stuff, apparently it wasn't as good, right? So one of the characters is called Finch. In the film, he's got a sister. I was like, it worked for me watching it. But then I read all the reviews, and they were like, they took out his younger sister, who and apparently that's not as good now. So I'm wondering whether if I was to watch the series of Unfortunate Events without having read the books, would I then look at that and go, oh, that's a great film, just like I did with the other one, whereas everyone else thinks it's bad.
Yeah.
That happens. That happens quite a lot, where the film, when film adaptations, especially of books, happen, the film can be pretty good or even very good, but it can be a it can be a bad adaptation of the book. Yeah. So then if you read the book, you're like, why didn't this happen? Why did they remove this? The story of the book was so much better. But it doesn't mean the film itself is bad. One film franchise that did die off, that was a book series that I can think of off the top of my head, was the both the Maze Runner franchise and the Divergent franchise. The last Divergent film is bad. I mean, it was Allegiant.
Oh, really?
So like the Hunger Games, they wanted to split the last book into two films, part 1 and part 2. The first Allegiant film did so badly that they didn't even make the second one. They just dropped it.
Wow.
And it was like, it's.
I think you had that. I think there was. Have you guys read the Alex Rider series? Cool. I remember listening like because it's all like. I think I watched it when I was like 12 or 13, but I read it when I was 12 and 13, and it came out as a film and it had Mickey Rourke in it, who's like, if you haven't seen The Wrestler, he's an amazing actor. If I watched it, I was like, cool, you guys are milking this idea of like it's made for kids. It's kind of like Alex Rider, Stormbreaker, sorry, yeah. And then you kind of milked it, and then like another one's Percy Jackson, Lightning Thief. I loved those books, but then I watched the adaptation and I was like, yikes, you could have done there's so many good cliffhangers they could have used to like keep us engaged, but
I remember
they literally crammed the last 3 books
with
the last one.
So with me, I've got this, I'm much more of a visual person. I love looking at things a hell of a lot more than I enjoy reading it. So if I watch a good film, I will watch the good film first and then I'll go read the book if I like the film that much. That's what I did with the Hunger Games. That's what I did with Maze Runner. And that's what I did with Percy Jackson and the Lightning Thief. I watched the film and then I went and read the book. And for me, I can honestly say that I enjoyed the film more than the book, because
really,
like the
Percy
book,
Jackson.
Yeah, for Percy Jackson, right? And the reason is because of the content they missed out in Percy Jackson. The first, like, I'm not saying it's the best film in the world, but for me, the story worked.
You're talking the first film, second film, because I think that's
the first film. The second film was bad.
Okay, the first film, I think the first one was good, but I think
So but everyone was complaining about how with the first film they missed out loads of stuff. I'm like, okay, they did miss it out, but I still enjoy the film. It's still a good film. And then with the second film, it wasn't good.
I can see that.
And I didn't even read the book. I didn't even read the book though, because it puts me off the book when a bad film is made from it. I don't know why.
I'm like, the books were good. Like, obviously they break it down as more detail within those sequels, but if you put it all into one and expect us all to digest it and be like, okay, we're going to go through this entire series in one film, it's just a bit like, look, there's too many challenges and it's been passed over too much.
The easiest way to kill a franchise is to adapt it from a TV series or a book.
Game of Thrones,
right?
Could not be more. Unless you guys have seen it. I know people
haven't
seen the last one.
I've seen half of the first season, and I decided not to watch it because I didn't like it. But There you go.
I mean, yeah, the first couple of episodes, you're like, ugh. It's just, it can be either a cup of tea or not. But from what I've heard, obviously, I think it is from a book, but the end was like crowned because I think the writers got Star Wars contracts.
They got given a Star Wars contract, and they were like, okay, we need to wrap up season 8 in 8 episodes. And HBO were like, you can have more. We'll give you up to 15 episodes because this is a big ending. And they were like, no, 8, because we need to go and make Star Wars.
What Star Wars stuff was that? That
they lost their contract.
They were meant to be making their own Star Wars trilogy, and because Disney gave them that trilogy, they rushed the end of Game of Thrones so that they could get on to make
arguably
Star
one
Wars.
of the greatest TV series ever, and they just rushed it. Sorry, carry on.
A mixture of both the quality of the actual season and the amount of fan outcry. Afterwards, Disney basically said they'd lost their trust in them to do Star Wars justice and took their trilogy away.
Yeah, but like that is the beauty of the Game of Thrones, because now like a lot of people like discussing how worse the last season is, and then people keep like just remember one thing about like the whole Game of Thrones is they're building everything is really good in the beginning, but in the last season is worse.
The last season is so bad that now it's the only thing people talk about when it comes to Game of Thrones.
Yeah.
Season 4 was so good. I can't believe how bad the ending was. No, it was just the ending was bad. Amazing. It ruined the show.
Do you know what? It's exactly the same with the Star Wars sequels as well. Like every time you go onto TikTok, Star Wars TikTok, it's completely dominated by people either loving the sequels or trashing the sequels or trying to defend the sequels, or Gina Carano's recent firing, or just really bad stuff that you don't want around your film franchise. Like Star Wars, I think of Star Wars now, the first thing I think of isn't the coolest characters. It's like I think, Disney have done some really controversial stuff with it. That's not what you want to do with a franchise. Yeah, I'm not going to go into it anymore.
I know we're not on the topic of film adaptations tonight, but I think high budget TV has done wonders for book adaptations because it's like Game of Thrones. If Game of Thrones was a series of films and each film was one of the books, it would have just been so empty compared to, or like rushed and condensed compared to the TV series. And same with His Dark Materials. His Dark Materials is an adaptation of His Dark Materials, The Subtle Knife, Golden Compass, and whatever. That series of books. And The Golden Compass, the film, it was a good film in itself, but it was a bad adaptation because they had to force so much content from all these books into 2.5 hours. But then got a TV series. Every chapter of the book can be its own episode, and it's suddenly actually like it's fleshed out, and you understand the world and the people and all the characters and everything.
There are a lot of things you can show in a film, but you can then show in a series. That's why these days, so we didn't have that much craze of series just 5 years ago. 5 years ago, there were more movies than series. About these topics in Asia. I don't know about the West, but in Asia, that was the trend. But now with so many interesting stories from comic books, from books, everyone's like, we want to make a series, because if you make a film about it, then it's very difficult to cover everything. Like we saw with Harry Potter. So in a Harry Potter movie, Ron actually dies. And in the Harry Potter book, so Ron actually dies, but they don't show that in the film.
Damn, I didn't know that.
No,
it is. He dies
in Deathly Hallows, right? The book. Am I just crazy?
Yes, in the second last book he dies, but in the movie they didn't show that, because that will not look good. So just imagine if Harry Potter would be a series.
Back? No spoilers, but does he come back, or is he just completely killed?
I can't remember. I haven't
completely
read
dead.
Oh no!
I haven't read the books in ages. I think so.
All right, carry on.
It's the
That's
this is
so-
the thing, right? When you're doing an adaptation, it's worth talking about, because if you get an adaptation wrong, it will kill the franchise. The whole point of doing an adaptation, right, is the majority of adaptations will be made because there is a potential for future series where you can get already invested fans involved in it, right? That's the point of adapting a film. And if you get that first film wrong, like Green Lantern got it wrong, Avatar: The Last Airbender got it wrong, you know. If you get it wrong, that's it. Your franchise is dead.
The Golden Compass as well.
Yeah, the Golden
They were
Compass.
meant to make a sequel and like actually more follow the complete series of books, but people didn't particularly like the Golden Compass, so
why would they go?
it ended with that.
Yeah.
Same with Mortal Engines. People didn't like the adaptation of Mortal Engines, so
we're
not getting another Mortal Engines.
Yeah, I mean, I watched the Mortal Engines and it was bad. Like I went into it, right, and they told me the characters' names. I haven't read the book, right?
And then
they
you forget them within 10 minutes, and you never pay attention to them again.
I forget the characters' names, and then it feels like they expect you to know the characters already. Like you're meant to have read the books before you watch the film. But when I'm just going in without having read the books, it's like it's not Mortal Engine. I don't know. I didn't like it. There you go. Chris, I think
so. Yeah, so the last one is Chris. Chris / Owen. You can
Chris / Owen, yeah.
My film is Prometheus, and Prometheus, it didn't kill the Aliens franchise, but it did kill its own franchise, because Prometheus wasn't meant to be part of the Aliens franchise. It was meant to be part of the Aliens universe, but it was kind of like a side thing. Like, it's not about the aliens. It's why they don't show the aliens. It's why it's not called Aliens Prometheus. It's kind of just a story in the universe, and it's meant to be following David and the scientist lady whose name I can't remember, but like as they try to, and it's exploring like where humanity came from, and like the origin and meaning of life, and like are sentient machines really that different from humans, and that kind of thing. And I really like Prometheus, but lots of people, they wanted an aliens film. So then, even though Prometheus was a good story and it set up a good thing where, like, at the end they get on the ship and like we're off to find our creators, and we're gonna ask them why they wanted to kill us. We're gonna ask them why they wanted to make us in the first place. Then Alien Covenant, the sequel to it, they have the bit when they get on the ship and they make it to the creator homeworld, and then they just kill all the engineers, every single one, just within a 2-minute scene. And also the scientist lady from the first one, who's kind of meant to be the main character of the franchise, they just kill her off as well, because they needed to make it into an aliens film, and she wouldn't have properly fit.
This is the thing with the spin-offs. I've not seen Prometheus myself, but I've heard bad things about it, right? I mean, you said it was a good story, but people expected it to be an alien one, right? So I'll watch it, but not as an alien movie, like you say. And I think this is a problem that spin-off movies have in general. It's like a lot of people, right? So Rogue One, I'm relating it back to Star Wars again, for me is like a brilliant film. I love Rogue One. I think it's
I actually really like that.
Yeah,
it's only one I've seen.
The thing is about Rogue One, it's the most real Star Wars film you'll get in a Star Wars based universe, right? And it's really, really good. But a lot of people came out of it and went, "Oh, there's no lightsabers except for like Vader at the end with his, scene. It's not like a real Star Wars. It doesn't feel like Star Wars." And I'm just like, "What are you on about?" But you're right. Like, if you spin-offs a part, would you say it was part of like, I know you said Prometheus wasn't part of the Alien franchise, but was there not like any expectation to be like Alien, or was it just meant to be different?
I think it was never ever like actually insinuated to be an aliens film, even in disguise. But it was directed by Ridley Scott, the creator of Alien, and he did confirm it was set in the Aliens universe. So I think people put those things together and was like, why isn't Ridley Scott just making another Alien film? And it's like, because what he made is good. He didn't want to make another Alien film, but people basically just pressured him into making Aliens Covenant. And like the character who was the scientist lady who was meant to be like the main character of this new franchise he was making, they just killed her off screen because she wouldn't have fit in the new story.
Yeah, it's.
Um,
Is that like fan? This is a question, right? Can fan reaction cause like a company, like you say, to make a film which then kills the franchise? Fan service, like bad fan service. Is that like how do we kill franchises? Is fan service one of the ways to do that?
It is possible. Yes, it is 100% possible.
Yeah, like with me, like the whole
Try to
film
find an example.
industry. Yeah, like the whole film industry is like audiences, fans is really important part. Like you want to make the movie to have the people to watch it.
Yeah.
So basically, like with Aliens is incredible. Like from Ridley Scott, like a lot of people love the movie, but the question for the film, like the studio, like how to expand the whole universe and keep people watching it. Like you make the film already success, is safer than you make the new film that nobody knows about that.
Yeah.
Like with Ridley Scott, Prometheus, I understand that he tried to make a spin-off to step back and make another direction, but with Prometheus, it's not successful. So that's why he killed the whole things about engineer, about the scientist lady. Then okay, let's bring back the aliens. But the problem is you bring back the aliens without any reasons why it's just back. It's sometimes like.
And they do it for the fans, don't they? They're like, the fans want aliens, so we'll just give them aliens.
Yeah,
people did like Aliens Covenant. It's like Aliens Covenant. It's an okay film. I've never been the biggest fan of Aliens, to be honest. But Aliens Covenant, it was an okay film. People who like Aliens would probably say it's a very good film. But I wasn't interested in Aliens. I was interested in the new story that he was making with Prometheus. And then he just killed that off completely.
Yeah, it's like Prometheus is potential to make like the new universe, like the new things with aliens universe, but fans just want to see what really popular to them, what they already love it.
Yeah.
Exactly like with the bring back the book adaptation, Twilight and 50 Shades of Grey. I read the books. Two things.
So I've got something fun to say about Twilight, right? So some Abby, who's not here today, I was talking to her about this, right? And she studies film at university, and she was lucky enough to talk to one of the creators of Twilight, and they were saying how, and they've got clips of it, of how the Twilight films was numbed down to make it it's a 15, right?
Yeah.
So it was meant to be an 18, but they were told by their company that they had to turn it down to a 15. And actually, if they had their way and they wanted it, and it was an 18, they would have had heads being torn off. They would have had necks being, stuff like that.
There is bits in the fourth one, that isn't there? Like, I swear people get their heads.
I watched the first half of the first one and decided I didn't like it, but apparently
Twilight.
Twilight was apparently meant to be a hell of a lot more gruesome, but they were told to numb it down because they wanted younger audiences to be able to watch it as well. And that's all. Maybe it's a slightly different kind of fan service because they want more people. They're doing it so more people can watch it, but it did seem the
for money, right?
Exactly, they did it for money. And it
more money. Money.
Twilight's got multiple problems.
That's me, finance.
But Twilight's got multiple problems, right? And we could go into
even the actors from Twilight seem to completely like it. Robert Pattinson was once like, "Oh, don't talk to me about Twilight" in an interview. And there was one thing. On Anna Kendrick's Twitter, somebody sent her a picture from her in the first Twilight, and Anna replied, what's this from? And the person went, it's from the first Twilight. And you replied, oh my God, I was in the first Twilight.
Oh
But the thing
wow!
is, fans love it.
It's like to
Yeah.
all you Twilight
Fans.
fans out there, we're so sorry that you can love them as much as you want, but they're not good.
Yeah,
but,
like the
I
only
mean-
thing matter is fan love it, right? And
literally.
that's enough. That's enough for the studio. Like
Yeah.
make it for the money. Like pay a lot, like
It's-
We were
it's-
$200
four
million.
films in. Like
Make it.
it wasn't like
Yeah.
it's not
Yeah.
doing well, or it's like it's not.
Yeah, like
they
I
just
would-
kept going.
I wouldn't say at all that the Twilight series. I mean, but how do you guys define like a how to kill a franchise? Because like obviously with I've
I feel
mentioned
like it
Star
would
Wars a
stop
lot.
after a
right.
set film. Like
Well, yeah.
it would, like, for example, like Jaws is a good example. Like they, obviously the first film was amazing, and I think the way it was done, it was one of the first like kind of shark films that makes sense, like to my knowledge. And it kind of it was done so correctly because it like most of the film you don't see the shark. It's just because it's alluding like there's a common knowledge that it's something out there, and it kind of obviously we know from the posters and it's all advertised that it is a shark, but up until that point we don't know what it is, and that's the scary part of it. The second film, obviously, we've had the shark, you see what the shark's like, and now I believe the second film is about the shark's children trying to get revenge. I'm not sure, but you see the shark like it's not CGI'd or anything. It's literally you can see the shark, and it's just not that impressive. So I think that's what kills it. So they're like, no, we're not doing a trilogy on this one.
Well, I was thinking as well. Does the box office result of a film determine how many if so a film could be really really good, but then do so badly at the box office that they just they like financially can't make a sequel, right? And when I was like trying to think of a film, to resemble this, did you guys ever see the animated film from DreamWorks called Abominable?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. So it's not the best film. I'm not trying to say it's the best film in the world, but it's a fairly decent film. But it was so poorly advertised that when it came to the box office, it pretty much slumped. It wasn't like not many people have even heard of it, right? And it's like it's not the best film, but it's better than, let's say, Boss Baby, right? Which they are now making a sequel for because the first Boss Baby made so much money for younger audiences and kids that they're now making a second Boss Baby. So like I'd say they killed the Abominable sort of like, I'm not sure whether they were meaning to make it a franchise, but they could have made it a franchise, but they chose not to. So that sort of like died straight away because the box office did badly. Whereas Boss Baby, which is a bad film, and ended with them as adults as well, spoiler alert, and like having a flashback. It was meant to be a standalone film, but it did so well at the box office that they're now making a
Megamind.
Oh yeah, that's a good example.
Megamind is a
Megamind.
fantastic movie.
Yeah, really good film.
Agree.
But it came out the same year as Despicable Me, within a few. I think it was a few months after, and so nobody watched it because everybody wanted to watch Despicable Me, and because it didn't make much money, lots of people haven't even seen the film, and they didn't make. Like maybe I don't know whether they really should have made a sequel or whatever. I feel like they could have, if they made a sequel, then they could very easily just milked it and ruined the whole thing. But
DreamWorks
it's like Megamind it's a dead franchise. They made the one movie. It didn't sell very well for reasons that were nothing to do with how the quality good the movie was.
Yeah.
And now they abandoned it and they've never looked back.
Which is a shame because
it is a shame.
It's very
It
good.
is. Like,
DreamWorks in general, right? They have a very, I don't know what, I think it's because of their advertisement, right? Like I love you, DreamWorks. I'm complimenting you right now. You've got some gems in your, like I would say in my top 10 list of best animated films, probably about 5 or 6 of them are going to be DreamWorks films. DreamWorks creates some stunning animated films. Like they're really, really good. But they just don't seem to do as well as the box office. Whether that's because DreamWorks as a company isn't as big as Disney, I don't know.
It is a promotion as well. Like I feel like
it's
a big
promotion
part
thing.
of promotion. Like I know there's some films that I'm like, how has this not gotten better box office? Like obviously, like for me, I think there was one film that I watched recently called Bombshell, and I was like, this is such a hard-hitting film about political issues that are happening today, but barely anyone's seen it because of how poorly it's promoted. And that's one issue that you can see in loads of franchises is that sense of promotion kind of dies off in the first few films, but then it gets picked up whilst they're getting box office, which I think is the issue you see.
Bombshell, the one about Roger Ailes and Megyn Kelly.
It was about what's it called? It's with Margot Robbie, Nicole Kidman, about like Fox News and their
that's the one. That's the one.
Yeah,
Roger Ailes and Megyn Kelly. Yeah.
Sorry, yeah.
So I mean, there were three women. They accused Roger Ailes for sexual harassment, and there's also a scene with Donald Trump.
There is.
The thing about Bombshell is when you're like, oh, people haven't seen Bombshell, I had no idea what the film was. As soon as you were like, oh, it's the one with Nicole Kidman and Margot Robbie at Fox News, I was like, I have heard of this film. I've heard it's very good. I've seen the adverts for it and everything. But I just, for the life of me, when you said just the name, nothing came to mind at all.
I mean, I really like the film. So I first saw the trailer, and they have the trailer song is Billie Eilish, "Bad Guy," which is really good. Completely fits that. And when there's an intro in the film when Megyn Kelly talks about the Fox News, the inner circle of Fox News, how Roger Ailes controls Fox News, and how Rupert Murdoch, the person who owns the entire Fox empire, controls Fox entertainment and news. And this power circle is just so, at the same time, it's bizarre, it's inspiring, it's just so I would say epic, that you would like, that thing will be going around your head for days to come. And the film is completely I'd say one of the best films I've ever watched. I mean, you have Margot Robbie to look like Megyn Kelly, who is now in her 40s, and the makeup and everything just so good. I'm not Margot Kelly as not Margot Robbie as Megyn Kelly. There's someone else as Megyn Kelly, but the work with makeup, the work with music, and everything, the storyline, it's just so perfect. And if you if to our audience, if you have not seen Bombshell, watch it. It's one of the best films you're ever going to see.
It kind of blows your mind in the sense that you're like, I think in this society, obviously we're still so far away from equality and treating people with respect of different minorities or different diverse backgrounds, whether it's gender or race or whatever it is. And you see that and you're like, how is that happening? Like you watch it, and like for me, I remember watching it and I was like, oh, I've seen a few clips on Instagram. I know we're going off topic, but I'm just really into this film. I was seeing a few clips on Instagram, and then I was like, okay, I'm having my breakfast, so I'll have it on the background. And I literally couldn't stomach my food. I literally was so disgusted at what happened. I just couldn't stomach food. Sorry, complete off topic, but yeah. Cool. But the promotion of it, that's what blew me away. That barely that much promotion for something that is so that's quite evident. Well, that's quite prominent in that time when it came out, and I was surprised that it didn't do that well in the box office. I think that's happened.
Yes, I mean, a lot. I watched it a year after its release. I was like, they made such a good movie, and there was no the promotion that it deserved. And that was something that was really bad. That it's such a good movie, and it deserves a big promotion, because the topic itself is just so important. That talks about what was going at that time when Roger Ailes was at Fox News, and then it's like no good promotion for this. Why? I mean, how can you be so cruel?
Yeah, exactly.
Is it? Do you think who made the film? Do you guys know who made it? Because I think I think it also comes down to who makes it, right? Because I'm like with DreamWorks, right? DreamWorks obviously isn't as big as Disney, so Disney films are always going to make more money, right? So depending on who makes it, obviously I think depends how much advertisement it can get. If that makes sense. Like, it's like it obviously it's a really good film. I haven't seen it myself, but you guys obviously make it sound really good and stuff. But
so I mean,
we're getting
if it's got all the money to back up the advertisement from the thing, from the
Yeah.
company, then it's not. It makes it difficult, doesn't it?
It
So,
doesn't make sense. You
this-
have some of the biggest stars. Sorry,
Oh.
carry on.
Oh no, I was just saying that this film was distributed by Lionsgate,
Oh, Lionsgate.
and
Okay.
yes, the budget was $32 million, and
too bad.
the director is Jay Roach.
Okay. So they had. It's
So,
not like
and-
they didn't have money, right? They could have. And Lionsgate is a big company. They should have.
And if you look at the
Yeah,
cast
and,
as well, I'm not assuming anything, but if you look at the cast, that is a big budget cast. So you got Nicole Kidman, Margot Robbie. I can't remember. There's someone else in there. There's got the guy
Charlize Theron.
Charlize Theron. The guy who
There's,
played Churchill in
Yeah.
which bit? But yeah.
Dunkirk.
Is 32 million the entire budget?
So
32, yes,
okay.
entire budget of the film, yes.
Because well, does that include marketing?
Yes, I think so.
So it's not actually a very big budget film then,
No.
because the marketing of movies is usually about twice as much as the movie cost to make.
Yeah, I mean,
The guy who plays Roger Ailes, and you're talking about Churchill on the Crown. It's John Lithgow.
oh,
Yeah.
So I mean, till the time I didn't. Yeah, it's great cast, and I was like, I first saw him on the Crown, and all this time I was thinking that he's British, but when I read the wiki, it turns out he's American.
Oh.
Yeah.
That's when you know he's a good actor. You're literally like, oh crap. It's like, what's it? It's gonna be sounds really bad, but who played Batman? You got
What?
which one?
no, the Dark Knight Rises trilogy.
Christian Bale.
Bale.
Yeah,
That's it. Sorry,
Christopher
Can't
Nolan.
remember.
Yeah.
No, yeah, Christian Bale, and then like so many people have met him. It's like, oh my god, you're British. They all think he's American. Yeah, completely off topic, aren't I?
He's put in so many American films where he plays American characters, so he does an American accent to the point where he sounds like he's American.
Oh
Yeah.
man.
But you reckon like the problem with the original movie is like the studio don't even know how it's gonna be released to the audience, how the audience gonna like react on that. So that's why they don't really risk much, like don't push too much budget on that, money on that.
Yeah.
And with Bombshell, like $32 million, and with like 3 or 4 celebrities on that, the most of the budget, I think the reason why they put the celebrities on the movie because it's solely for the purpose of fundraising.
Yeah, because like when you get certain actors on films, they bring with them a bunch of fans that will watch the film.
Yeah.
So
and the like financials, like they look at that, like with the celebrities, they pretty much want to invest because it makes like it's some kind of deposit for the money they put in, and like just safety in terms of finance. But
I think the advertisement in general is so important to the survival of a franchise. It's like it really goes underplayed. Have you guys ever seen the film again, DreamWorks, Rise of Guardians? It's an animated film, right?
No,
so so a lot of people say, "Oh, I've heard of that," right? What actually a lot of people mean is the film Legends of the Guardians. Now, Rise of the Guardians is about So Legends of the Guardians is the owls.
Yeah.
Rise of the Guardians is about Santa Claus, the Easter Bunny, Jack Frost, all fight in pitch black. Whereas Legend of the Guardians is just a bunch of owls fighting each other in like a fantasy type thing, right? And that was far better advertised than Rise of the Guardians. And now, so whenever you say Rise of the Guardians, people don't think of the film they're supposed to. They think Legends of the Guardians because it sounds so similar in the name, right? And it's just like, I'm just thinking, like, I know, because Rise of the Guardians, again, was based off a book. But I'm like, I know it's based off a book, but this film's out. Why don't you just, like, change the name so it's distinguishable, right? And it's just, if you get stuff like, I don't know, advertisement's just so important. That's my point. That's my point. But yeah.
It's really good to have Juan, who is like an expert on finance and film finance, to be on here and talk about it. I told you guys he was fantastic.
Yes, man.
We get Juan in the comments.
Yeah.
So I think that's all for our episode today. Thank you so much, guys, for watching. And if you think there's a topic on which we should discuss on, do let us know in the comment section. Thank you so much for watching. This is Tanmay with Zach, Sehan, Juan, and Chris / Owen.
I stopped being
So-
Owen. It got too difficult to keep the hat on. It's so warm. My head was overheating.
Just before we end as well, I'd like to say sorry for not uploading last week. We've all just been very busy right now. Like, we've all got our own lives that we're all getting on with and we're all doing, and we just couldn't find the time last week. This week as well, there's less of us, as you might have noticed, so that's why it's a little bit shorter as well. We're all just like, we've all got our own lives. We're all just like, but we're working on getting weekly content out for everyone. So we hope you still enjoy it. We hope you enjoy it. I just said the same thing twice.
Thank you very much, everyone. Thank you.
Right, see you guys.
Cheers, guys.